If you're new to Node-RED, then this video is for you. I'm going to take you through the basics, including what flows are, nodes, messages, and also logic like ands and ors and how that works in Node-RED. If you're not new to Node-RED, then I've got a playlist of Node-RED videos that you should check out. I have already done a beginner's video for Node-RED, but having looked back at it now, there are some gaps. So this video is here to address some of those. I will go over some of the same ground, but also some different things as well. So the way Node-RED is structured is you have a series of tabs that you can create, and then within those tabs you've got some flows, and then within the flows you've got nodes that are joined together to create an automation. Confusingly, sometimes tabs are called flows as well, but for this video I'm going to call them tabs, and then I'm going to call the automations within the tabs flows. I like to think of tabs as a place where you can group different flows together for different automations that are similar. So for example, you might have a tab for each room in your house. I'm not going to show you how to install Node-RED in this video, but in my beginner's guide I do go through installing it for Home Assistant, so having Node-RED as an add-on. But there's some great documentation on the Node-RED website, so if you want to install it on different platforms, then I recommend taking a look at that. It's also got other great documentation there, such as user guides, tutorials, and also some advanced stuff on how to create your own nodes as well. Before we get started, I'm going to take you through how messages work and how they pass from one node to another, because that's a fundamental foundation of how Node-RED works. So every flow is based on passing a message between nodes. So every time it goes through a different node, you can either add, delete, or overwrite information in that message. A flow will typically end with an action being performed at the end of it, and it can also have branches off it performing other actions along the way. The message itself is a JSON string, and it typically gets converted within nodes to a JavaScript object. This is so that it's easy to manipulate the message and add and remove information from it. So now let's go over to the PC and I'll show you some of the basics. So now we're in Node-RED, I'm going to press the plus to create a new tab. And the first thing we need to talk about, of course, is what triggers a flow to start. So there's lots of things that could trigger it. So for Home Assistant nodes, if you're using Home Assistant, for example, it would typically be something like the event state node. So that would be an entity changing from on to off, for example, for a light. Or it might be the sentence one, which is if you use voice assistant, then if you say something to Home Assistant, then it would trigger through here. Or it could be an MQTT broker. So if you've got MQTT, there's an MQTT in here, for example. Or it might be using the built-in HTTP web server. So you've got HTTP in here. I'm going to just use the inject node because that's easy for testing and to show you what's going on. So if I drag the inject node onto here and double click it, then you can see that we can specify what's in the message. So if it's from one of the other entities that I just talked about, then that's going to populate the message with some information. So say if it was a state change of a light from Home Assistant from the event node, then it would build a message given the entity name and the state of the device. Here for this inject node, we can define whatever we want. So it always starts with MSG. So a message is always MSG, and then you have message.payload by default. So usually a lot of entities will use message.payload as the default piece of information within the message. Another common one is message.topic, but that's a bit more complicated, so we'll skip that for now. So what I'm going to do in here to demonstrate how messages work, I'm going to leave this message.payload as timestamp, but I'm going to press add here, and I'm going to just put subscribe here. And so this should add now a new piece of data to the message. So if we press done, I'm now going to use a debug node, and this just allows us to see what's in a message. So I'll link this up and then press deploy. And then if we go to the debug tab up here, and now if we press this, this triggers the flow for the inject node. And you can see here we've got message.payload. At the moment it hasn't got any other information. What we need to do is to go into here and show the whole message instead. So if we press it now, you can see it's got everything within this message object. So it's got a message ID, which is just an auto-generated unique ID. It's got the payload, which is the timestamp in milliseconds. And then it's also got the topic, which was blank, and it's also got the bit we added as well. So what I want to demonstrate now is how you actually add things to that message so that they can be used further along in the flow. So if I go back here, and I'm going to add a current state node. So what this is going to do is going to get me a state of an entity out of Home Assistant, and we're actually going to be able to add that state to the message. So under here I'm getting the state of the bedroom lamp, and if you look under output properties here, this is where you can see it populates the message with some information. So by default it's going to populate message.payload with the state of the entity. But you can already see here there might be a problem. So if you want to have the message.payload from the previous node, then it's going to overwrite that information. And this is where it's really handy that you can change this to whatever you like. So for example here, if I change this to lamp back, then it's going to populate that instead. So let me do lamp back data here. And now for now I'm just going to press done. Deploy that. I'll clear the messages here so you can see easily what's going on. Now if we look at the message, we can see that it's got the payload of before from the first node, but it's also now got lamp back off because we populated message.lampback with the state of the entity. Also lamp back data, so you can see we've got this here, and then it shows you more information from that entity from Home Assistant, so when it was last changed and updated. So you can probably start to see now how you can actually add more data to the message and then do something with that information. So if I say copy this, and if I include this in the flow as well, and then instead of back, I'll change this to another lamp, so the front lamp, and we change this to front. Right, so I've added the back and the front one in line with each other now. So in the debug node, we should now actually see information for both of those entities. So again, let's clear this, deploy, and press this. And now you can see we've got information from the back lamp that's off, the front lamp that's off, and also the other data for those as well. So hopefully now you can start to see how you can compile different pieces of information from different appliances or devices around your house. So I use this for my solar, for example. So I get information around the state of charge, how much solar is coming in, and then I make decisions on that about whether I want to turn appliances on or off. So now we're going to quickly look at the change node. So basically, as well as adding information to messages like we've done here, we can move it around. So if I do this, drag this to here, and then double click in here, you can see that you can set anything within the message. So what we could do here is I could set message.thread to either a specific value, or we could get something from the message already. So for example here, say I've got the subscribe. If I do that, and then we'll move the debug node over to here. Now if we look at this message here, you can see that Fred has been populated with the same information as subscribe. Obviously that's not a very useful example, but you can see that you can change things around in the message so that you've got it in the right place that you need it. So once you've got the pieces of information that you want in the message, you then of course want to do something with them. So it might be calling the service of Home Assistant to turn something on and off, or it might be sending an API call to a webhook, or it might be putting something on an MQTT broker. And that's the power of nodered. You can do so many different things with it. If you've ever done any coding, then you'll be familiar with if statements. So things like if bathroom light equals on, or if motion detected. Well, in nodered, you want to think about it slightly differently and think about it that each node is a decision point. So the node might determine that it goes one way or another way in the path and goes to a different node, or it might stop there, or it might branch off to lots of other different actions that take place. I'll take you through an example now, and it hopefully make more sense. So now let's look at how we make decisions in nodered, like ands and ors, etc. So if we double click into this, then you can see here by default we'll just pass the information on to the next node. But if I say on in here, then what that means is that this flow is only going to continue if this lamp is on. So what I'll do is I'll press done on this, clear these messages again, deploy. And if I press this, you can see that nothing happens, and that's because this lamp is off. And so that's how you stop the flow. You might have also noticed that we've now got another node thing here as well. So basically, If the state is true, i.e. it's on, then it goes through here, which it's not on, so it's not flowing through. But there's another output here as well. So if I copy this debug node, now if I press this, you can see that debug 9 node, it's gone through here because the lamp wasn't on, so this state didn't pass, and therefore it's gone this way instead. I've just flicked over to my production version of nodered for a second, so I just want to show an example of what I mean. So here, I've actually got a button by the side of the bed, and what I do is when you press that button, depending on the state of the light, determines what happens next for that button. So for example here, if the bedroom light is on, then it checks if the lamps are on or not, and then it turns the lamps on if they're not. And if they're already on, then it does something else. So basically, I can use one button to cycle through different lights within that room. So now let's wrap up by going through what we've learned. So I've created a few flows here to show you what we've learned so far, and they're a bit more useful examples hopefully. So here we've got a state change of the back bedroom lamp. So when this turns on or off, it should trigger this flow. And then we've got the same nodes as before. So we've got here getting the information from the back bedroom lamp and populating it into message back bedroom lamp, and the same for the front lamp. And then what we're going to do here is we reconfigure the message so that it's useful for this here, which is basically doing a broadcast to one of my Google speakers. So let's click back into this. So what I've done first is I've set the message.payload to be blank. So to do that, you go here, you go to JSON, and then just put some empty curly brackets. So that clears out that, so we've got a fresh starting point. And then what we do is we set message.payload.data.message to the message we want to send. And the reason we know how to do that is if I go into this service call, it tells us down here what properties we need to populate. So we need to populate message. If we also go up here to help, it tells us what we need to populate exactly. So if I scroll down, you can see under input, it says that everything has to be under message.payload. So for example, message.payload and then .data, so your data needs to be in there, and then the message under the .data. So that's why if we go back to here, I've got message.payload.data.message. And then in here, what I've done is I've done what you call an expression, which I haven't shown you yet. Let's open this. And then we take the information that has come from the previous nodes and we use that to form the message. So in this example, I've got lamp back data.attributes.friendly name. And where I've got that from is if we run the first flow again, and then you can see under here, we've got lamp back data, attributes, and then I've taken the friendly name from here. And if you press this button here, it copies the path. And that's what I've done down here. So let's go back again. So I've taken the friendly name and then put the word is, and then I've put the state of the lamp, which is here, whether it's on or off. And then I've done the same for the front as well. So then what should happen is when the state of this back lamp changes, it should tell us whether these lamps are on or off. So let's give it a try. I've got a manual trigger here as well. So using an inject node, we can trigger it. So let's press this.
Bedroom lamp back is off. Bedroom lamp front is off.
And there we go. So now let's change the lamp itself and see if it triggers it.
Bedroom lamp back is on. Bedroom lamp front is off.
There we go, let's do this. And you see it doesn't work for that one because our only trigger is the back lamp. So I've now got some examples here which somewhat represent and or conditions for coding. So I'm just manually triggering these ones. So basically if we trigger this, if the lamp is off, the back lamp is off, then it will go through to here. And then if that one is also off, then it should see this message. So you can see this is equivalent of having an AND condition of if back lamp is off and front lamp is off. Otherwise, if this one is on, it should do this message. And if this one is on, it should do this message. So now let's clear this, press this, and we can see we've got off, on, and it's saying that the front lamp is on. If we check here, that is indeed correct. Turn that off. And we can see this time both lamps off. Correct. So for this example here, I've done what's somewhat similar to an OR condition. So again, if we manually trigger this, and if the back lamp is on, it should give you this message. If it's off, however, then it will check if the front lamp is on, and in that case, it will give you the message via this route. So this is a bit like having if back lamp is on or if front lamp is on. So if I press this now, then you can see that it does a message, and that's because both of the lamps are on. But if I turn one off, then you can see that you still get the message. And finally, it's worth mentioning that I've obviously only just gone through a few nodes here, so there are a few other nodes to take a look at that I recommend. So the switch node, the counter for doing some counts, the time of day node, so you can do things between times of the day and also based on sunset and sunrise, etc. Sun events, so again similar, if the sun's rising, etc., you can get things to trigger automatically. And then also, of course, reading from files and writing to files, because that's useful for storing some information and then using it later. Well, hopefully this video has helped you get started with Node-RED. If you've come from a coding background, then it might be a bit of a mindset shift, but once you've got over that, hopefully you'll find it's quite useful like I do. Well, that's it for today, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already, comment down below and liking the video. So thanks, until next time.